At the most recent State of Play, Steel Wool surprised everyone with our first trailer for Secret of the Mimic, and there is a lot to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a breakdown of everything I noticed in the new trailer, and then at the end, I have a few questions to ask you guys, theory-wise, as to what some of the lore implications of this trailer are. But before we do that, I'm just going to play out the trailer for those who haven't seen it already, even though it's been out for a couple weeks now. If you want to just skip to my breakdown, just go to the next chapter I set up. But if you haven't seen it yet, enjoy this absolute masterpiece that Steel Wool cooked up.
So let me explain the situation. One of our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing, leaving our property abandoned in his warehouse. Your job is simple. Enter the warehouse and retrieve the technology that he was developing for us. It's a kind of prototype endoskeleton that can adapt to any costume and become any character. We suspect it may be malfunctioning, so just be aware of the slim but non-zero chance that you could sustain significant injuries while attempting to retrieve it, including but not limited to death or dismemberment. We fully expect the retrieval process to go smoothly and without incident. But just in case, we suggest you get your affairs in order before arriving.
Back to work.
Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Thank you for being a valued member of the Fazbear team.
So that was the trailer. So now I'm going to actually go through, watch the trailer live, and kind of stop and point out all the things I noticed in between. And then at the end of the breakdown, I'm going to ask you guys some questions about what you think the lore implications of this trailer are. Alright, so starting off, we have the Steel Wool logo, and you see we'll talk about this later when it pops up, but this is the old version of the Mimic's yellow eyes, or like kind of orangey. Take over the Steel Wool logo.
So let me explain the situation.
So as you can see here, this is the van, or this is most likely the van from the Help Wanted 2 update. But noticeably, it has a Fazbear Entertainment logo on the side now, which was not present in the update. Maybe just a slight continuity error, but there's no way they wouldn't start off the trailer like this if it wasn't the van from the Secret of the Mimic update. And obviously you can hear Hand Unit talking over the whole trailer, though he sounds a little different, and I'll get into why I think that is later.
One of our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing.
Here we see the inside of the factory, which a bunch of brand new characters. We see this costume a little better in a couple minutes. A bunch of dog characters. This is one of the bee characters that was shown off at PAX, I think, in one of the posters. I don't know, I didn't play the demo, but that's what people said they saw.
Leaving our property abandoned in his warehouse.
Oh yeah, also really quick, he mentioned Edwin Murray. I'm also going to get into later whether this proves, like this trailer, or what we know so far, whether this proves that the Tales of the Pizzaplex novels are canon to the games or not. I'll get into what this trailer tells us about that. But just so you know, there's been mentions of Edwin Murray, specific Mimic costumes that were also in the book, the Mimic itself, obviously. So more dog characters, a sheep. One of the Jester costumes. This is definitely not Jackie, but there seems to be more than one clown character. But yeah, lots of dog characters. A lot more than I'm even noticing the first time around. I think we can see a few more mascot costumes in the back over here.
Your job is simple. Enter the warehouse.
Okay, so seems to be a new form of the generator mechanic from Security Breach. And that's what gets us into the office.
And retrieve the
Now, I've seen some people say that this office is going to be a hub throughout the whole game. And I disagree with that. Because we see the office multiple times in the trailer. And every time we see it, it's a different office. So I think there's just going to be multiple of these. Like, it's not going to be this same office. They're going to look the same, but there's going to be multiple of them. And, you know, in the office itself, you see an alarm clock. Maybe it might be the same thing as Security Breach, where instead of it being 5 nights, we survive hours in the factory instead. Something else to note of is the mushroom character that we'll see the Mimic take over later. And the monitor. This monitor shows up later with the helper AI thing on it. We'll see this monitor used several times, even in stuff that's not the office, which is, again, another similar thing to the like camera system that they used in Ruin. But yeah, notice what's outside the window of this office, and you'll realize that all the offices are different in a second.
Technology that he was developing for us. It's a kind of prototype.
Okay, so, you know, another dog character.
Endoskeleton that can.
This is obviously the elephant character that we've seen in Ruin, but obviously looking much nicer and cleaned up, since this is all the way back in 1979.
Adapt to any costume. And
actually, if you look in the background, you can see a duplicate of whatever animal this is supposed to be. I'm pretty sure these are the exact same costumes.
And become any character.
Yeah, I like don't know what this guy is supposed to be, but I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, because he's got like pointed teeth, kind of pattern on his chest. If you guys know what kind of animal this guy's supposed to be, let me know. But I'm not really sure. But so far we've seen the dog and the elephant.
We suspect it may be malfunctioning, so just be aware of.
All right, here we see Tiger Rock, which, as some people speculated when the Help Wanted update came out, it is literally just a bigger version of the Tiger Rock plush. But I wonder if that's the other way around, as if they had the Tiger Rock mascot planned and like modeled already way before the update, and then they just kind of shrunk it down to make the plushie for the update, because they look exactly the same.
The slim but non-zero chance that you could.
Jackie looking pretty scary here. It seems to be part of the chase sequence. And we see another one of the... This will show up later in the trailer, but we see one of the rat distraction items here. We could probably like pick up and keep in our inventory or something.
While attempting to retrieve it.
Now, what most people would focus on is the elephant here, which again is the same one from Ruin. We already talked about that. There's something I want to point out here. I don't think many people saw this, but these posters on the wall here are the Fredbear Family Diners posters that we've seen in Into the Pit. You know, the ones that Steel Bull released as part of the charity stream for Daco. We're actually seeing them up here in Edwin's factory, which, you know, like Hand Unit is saying, Edwin is like basically their supplier of how they made like animatronics and stuff. Edwin was like probably the person who made all the stuff. And I think there was another poster. Yeah, there's a fourth one, but I can't tell what it is. Okay, I'm trying to like... Okay, it's another Freddy. That's apparent. But it says something. It says Salon, maybe? S-A-L-N. This is not one of the posters we've gotten before. This is a new one, but then these are all... This is the Freddy one. This is the Spring Bonnie one that looks like Glitch Trap, and then this is the phone number one. These are all ones we've seen before, but this one is a brand new one. So very interested to see what that's going to be. Oh, and something to point out here is that so the Mimic is clearly taking over this costume, or we can assume it is, but we don't see his eyes at all. So I wonder if that's something they're just using for the trailer, or if whether or not that's actually going to be a tell of what animatronics like possessed by the Mimic in game.
Including but not limited to death or dismemberment.
Because look. Because since we don't see its orange eyes, we never see the elephant actually attack us. Right before it fades to black, you see him turn his head as if the elephant is just going to keep walking away. Like they're not going to attack us. So that makes me think if like they're just a roaming blank endoskeleton in the costume and not the mimic itself.
We fully expect the retrieval process to go smoothly and without...
Because with Jackie, you can very clearly tell that is the mimic. Orange eyes and all. Especially when you compare it to the model of Jackie where it has like the eyes and you wouldn't be able to see him. So I think the orange eyes are supposed to explain when the mimic is in control or when it's just a normal endoskeleton. And this is, I think this scene here is another part of the chase scene that people said that they got to experience at PAX. But again, I never went myself, so I don't know.
Incident, but just in case.
This was the mushroom character I was talking about earlier that we saw in the office. And this is another thing where I was talking about where
we suggest you get your affairs in order before arriving.
There's a tell when the mimic is taking control of the costume or not, because as you can see, it's very apparent with his eyes. And what I mentioned at the beginning of the trailer, the eyes of the mimic are very different here. They're like these metal coils that light up. This is not how he looked in Ruin. So maybe we'll get an explanation of why he looks the way he does in Ruin versus how he does in this game. Okay, here we have a puzzle which at first glance, I'm thinking this puzzle is very similar to the mini game in Help Wanted 1 where you would like connect the pipes to each other. I think it's in the Ennard level if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, in the Ennard vent repair level, you would have to connect the pipes to each other by like flipping them around. And I'm assuming like we would probably just have to do this in time before he gets up and charges at us. What's the note about this? All right, this guy, when I'm looking at him right now, I'm trying to get like a better shot of him. Okay, if you look at his hands, I want to say that this is going to be an early version of a staff bot, right? Because his hands are like one-to-one with a staff bot. The 3 rectangular fingers. I 100% think this is going to end up like being revealed to be an early version of a staff bot. And, you know, obviously another thing here is the gift boxes from Security Breach are returning. So it's going to probably be another way to get collectibles and stuff. And the big thing is this is not the same office we were in at the start of the trailer. There's a giant door here on the left side, which was not there. And this window here is looking at a huge part of the factory. I don't know if people notice this or not, but this thing is huge. Look at this. This is some like Playtime Co. big factory that he's overseeing. And then we see our character using the hand crank to open the door, but I mean, anyone with eyes knows that this hand crank is the one that was on Jackie's music box in the trailer for Secret of the Mimic, like the teaser trailer. And, you know, when we got a closer look at it, when we actually cranked the music box ourselves in the update for Help Wanted. Okay, we get another look at the bee character, and the elephant is just kind of standing here in the dark. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I can like make out his trunk and the kind of tusk he has. This is definitely the elephant suit, just standing here. And then again, we don't see the orange eyes, so I don't know if this is just a normal endoskeleton just roaming around as mushroom guy or if this is actually the mimic or not. Okay, here we'll be going outside of the factory at some point, and then this part right here makes me think we're gonna see a sign of what like the factory looks like a tourist sign, like, oh, this is Edwin Murray's Toy Factory or something. You know, that's just kind of the vibes I'm getting when I'm looking at this architect right here. Seems to be just like vents and stuff, and we'll probably like end up going through this window or something. Another shot of Tiger Rock. Okay, here we have what seems to be an older version of the Faz wrench, and again, the monitor that we first saw in the first office. Again, the B character, some more brand new characters. There's a birthday cake here, which my first thought is the Glamrock Freddy minigame in Help Wanted 2, where you were switching out the birthday cakes. That's just what this reminds me of, but I doubt it has any relevance to that. And you can see a bunch of symbols on the Faz wrench. I don't know if those are gonna actually like be related to like gameplay or anywhere, if they're just there for decoration. And our newest version of Helper, shown here, with this very old monitor where we're supposed to reset welcome show, because I think we're in like some kind of stage area here. Hold on. Yeah, I think where we are in this portion is like some kind of stage area, which is why we need a reset welcome show. And I've seen many people point out this being a reason why the books aren't canon. I don't know why a version of Helpy being in the game this early on would mean that, oh, the books can't be canon. I don't know why people are thinking that way, but I think it's more like connecting the game continuity to the books to make sure they're like one in one. But again, I'll get into that a bit more later. But I think, actually, one more thing before I move on. I think it's very important to know why they keep changing Helpy. Because obviously in Pizza Sim up until, I want to say, Help Wanted, the first one, he was just Helpy. And then in Security Breach, he was like a Glamrock stylized version of Helpy. And then in Ruin, he was Help E with an I at the end instead of a Y. That was for people who had access to the Vanny mask. And now he's Helper. There's many versions of Helpy throughout the timeline now, and I'm wondering why that is. Okay, here we get a good look at, if I remember correctly, that name tag says Dolly. It's kind of hard to see. This is our look. Yeah, it says Dolly. So this is Dolly. Again, she's charging at us, but I don't see any red eyes or like sign of the mimic inside of her. So I don't know if this is the mimic itself or not, but you know, I guess we won't know till the game comes out. This seems to be a duck character here, and we're like some kind of like animatronic repair shop here, which might be her role, seeing she's kind of like dressed up as a nurse. This is probably what her role is, if she's not possessed by the mimic right now. So we'll see how that plays into it. Okay, here we see another look at the mouse distracting item that we saw in the Jackie chase scene, and another look at the office. Now, we don't actually see the inside of this version of the office, though I want to say it's another one than the one with the staff bot in it and the one at the beginning. So that means we've seen a total of 3 offices so far, so that definitely seems to be leaning more towards security breaches, multiple offices. Maybe we'll get badges in there as well, like in Security Breach, to get like more access to different parts of the factory and stuff. And something noteworthy here is we've seen a bunch of the characters already, like another sighting of the bee character, a bunch of these swan/duck characters, a pig character. But I think the most important one is all the way in the back here. This could be reaching, but I think this might be an early version of Monty that we see back here. Oh my god, actually, as I'm recording this, I just noticed the elephant is also back here. It's very hard to see, but I'm pretty sure this is the elephant suit again, that he's just back here. But yeah, more importantly, I think this is what we're seeing here is an early version of Monty, because I think he's still using the guitar that was part of his backstory in Ruin. So that's cool to see if we can see like the origins of Monty Gator. More of the Jackie chase scene from PAX, I think. Pretty cool looking. And here we see our new look at another version of DJ Music Man. but he looks unfinished. Like, look at his legs. They're all like exposed. No like plate covering or anything. He's like crashing through the roof here. And he's got like a stomach that can open now with arms in it. And again, notice the arms. These are very similar to Staffbot arms, where it's only 3 fingers that have rectangles. Very similar in that way. And I'm trying to get a good look at Music Man's face. I guess we'll do that through his jump scare. He seems to be dressed up as like a kind of... I don't know what the word is. He has one of those old white wigs with the curls. Some horns coming out of his ears, wearing a hat, and has a mustache with kind of blinder looking eyes and a grinder in his mouth. Very interesting design. Can't wait to see what that has to do, like where he's gonna play in game, because he's like, because when we do see him, he's literally jumping out of the roof. So it's like, why was he up there?
Responsible for damage to property or person. Thank you for being a valued member of the Fazbear team.
And then the awesome release date of this year in June. So that's everything I noticed in the trailer, but now I have some questions for you guys regarding some of the lore in this trailer. Question number 1. Why are we seeing, especially in this trailer, why are we seeing some characters that were introduced much later in the game series appear now in what is the earliest game in the franchise, being in 1979? We're seeing characters like Hand Unit, Helpy, and Music Man, which are all characters like post-sister location, show up in a game that takes place in 1979. It's a pattern I noticed, and I'm trying to figure out why Scott and Steelwool are trying to go with this direction of storytelling. My guess is that they're trying to connect this new story they're trying to tell with original characters like Edwin Murray, the Mimic, and all that to their existing IP, so that maybe people who are new to the series and maybe start off with Secret of the Mimic aren't just like completely lost or something. Is the only thing I can think of, which is why I'm asking you guys what you think. Question number 2. Do you think our player character is anyone important, or is just a Fazbear Entertainment employee? Because as you've noticed throughout the series, every person that we play as in the main games is usually someone important. Like, you can make a case that, like, you could say that the mainline games like 1 through 6 are Michael Afton, UCN is William Afton, Help Wanted is Vanessa, Security Breach is obviously Gregory, and so on and so forth. So like everyone that we've played as is someone important. It's not just a nobody. So who do you think the person we're playing as is going to turn out to be? Or, it could end up just being a nobody. Let me know which one you think it's going to end up being. Someone important or just a nobody that ends up like getting killed off at the end or something. And then finally, what's an existing FNAF question that you think will get answered in this game? I think something relating to Fredbear's Family Diner and the start of Fazbear Entertainment as a whole will be addressed in this game, because as I pointed out earlier in my breakdown, we see posters of Fredbear's Family Diner scattered throughout this factory. So clearly there's some ties to Edwin Murray and the start of Fredbear's. So I'm thinking something like that, but with a FNAF game, you don't know what will be answered or what new questions will arise. So let me know if you have any predictions you'd like to put money on of what could get answered in this game. And there you have it. That is my complete breakdown of the Secret of the Mimic trailer. Let me know your thoughts on the questions I posed to you, or let me know if there's anything I missed in the trailer, and I'll see you guys in the next one.